Elmer Layne, a 2011 inductee into the CARB Hall of Fame. And I am here with John Layne, his son, and we are going to talk just a little bit about Elmer and what he meant to the racing community here in the Kansas City area. John, the story that you related to me that I just got a really big chuckle out of was about you and your mom and your siblings going to visit somebody in the Lake of the Ozarks, and what happened when you got back.
Well, when we got home, Mom's car was a race car.
Yeah.
And this is where the Laynes actually got started into the racing. My dad's second cousin, I believe, Louis Siegel, was the driver at that time, which would have probably been in 1952.
Uh-huh.
So.
You were gone a week, and when you come back?
When I come back. But you got to realize I was 3 years old. So
Yeah.
I don't really remember a lot of it.
Don't remember a lot of it, just knew it wasn't Mom's car anymore.
Yeah.
That's really funny. How long did your dad actually race? Now, didn't he actually drive the car for a while?
Yeah, about 3 weeks.
I guess it didn't take him long to figure out he didn't want to do it.
They changed and it got a lot faster, and he decided that things were happening pretty fast at Olympic Stadium.
Yeah.
So, and now they would probably go around there in 8 seconds. So still there.
But I guess the end of his driving career was actually the start of what we really know Elmer Layne for around the Kansas City area.
Right. They started out building jalopies, and as the rules changed and they basically just one step at a time became super modifieds and then sprint cars.
Right, okay.
So he really just started, and he stayed right with the program.
Yeah. I have just a couple of drivers here I'm going to name. Louis Siegel, Wes Farron. Who were some of the other drivers that did drive for your dad in that particular era?
Gosh, in order. Really Goodwin actually started racing out of our shop, was one of them. Dale McDaniels and Judd Larson actually drove a couple of times that I can remember. So just about everybody that went around that was really...
Okay. Starting in '55, after your dad's regular job, what did he actually do for a living? Of course, I think it was a couple of different occupations.
Well, mainly he was a, what would you call it, you better blank that out. Did you take that out?
No, we can move on. That's all right. Just go ahead.
Okay. He was a foreman for Brunson Instrument Company.
Okay.
And that was basically at that time at nights, and worked in the shop in the backyard in the daytime.
Okay, that's what I was going to start to get into. Was he had a full-time job during the day, but in the evenings?
Well, really, he worked nights.
Oh, okay.
And worked in the shop during the day.
Worked in the shop during the day in the backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, was there a building back there that he worked in?
Yes, well, they had built a little small garage. And it wasn't very big, though.
Yeah. But anyway, after working, well, at night after doing the machine work there, but slowly but surely he started accumulating some different pieces of machinery and made himself or collected enough machinery to have a machine shop, and he would do this work just on the side.
Right. And then, but everything that is Layne Machine Works, actually, he acquired after 1971.
Okay.
So
some stuff later on, but
that was what Layne Machine Works is later.
Right. But I think also one of the things that you told me about this particular time too was that it was a family policy that you didn't use family money to do this, so he had to make money on the jobs that he was doing in the machine shop in order to acquire more machinery.
Right. And also for their racing expense.
Right. Now, was he a trained machinist? Did he have any formal training at all?
Oh, high school. They had, and then he worked in St. Louis in job shops at the first of the war when they was actually still in high school. And after he got out of the Navy, he went to work for Brunson Instrument Company.
Okay.
As soon as they moved to Kansas City.
Okay. So he did have some training in machine work, but
yes, but not in what as the racing type was a more manufacturing.
Right. And like you say, probably to acquire that type of training now, you might have to go to a technical school or something like that to get to that level.
I would say no more the School of Hard Knocks.
Okay. By 1957, and as far as I'm concerned, this is the era when I really think modern racing started, because this is about the time that the V8 was coming in. This is also the time that I remember, I could be wrong, but I was thinking this is about the time you started seeing tubular chassis were just starting to come into play. And here your dad is right in the middle of this, because if you are a car owner in 1957 and you want a piece that's broken, either repaired or made from scratch, you got to go to your dad, or the only other guy in town was Taylor Pappy Weld.
Right.
And so I'm not going to say you guys had a lock on it, but you guys had a lock on it.
Well, yeah, but almost everybody did most of their own work. Mm-hmm. It's not like today where they buy it from a car builder. It was totally a different era. Everybody that had a race car could work on a car.
Right. They understood them, and they went in and did it themselves.
Right.
Okay.
And they worked pretty hard at getting a lot done with not very much stuff.
Right. I was going to say, today it's certainly different than that. It's buy it somewhere and pay high dollar for it.
They pay pretty good, and it's really a bargain what they're getting for their money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the car builders are doing a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
They just change too much stuff. And
yeah. What if there were any particular items that might have been things that race car teams would come to your dad for? What would have been his expertise, I guess is what I want to say.
Well, he made in the first torsion bars that most of the cars had in Kansas City came from Dad's shop. Then the quick changes were pretty expensive, and he started building the Ace Steel quick change. And I would say he built almost 100 of them.
Really? Oh, wow.
So that's the most common things, but most of the stuff was really repaired broken parts from the night before,
right?
So they could race the next night. So
yeah, I was say a lot of times they might be working on something else on the car or whatever, and they would bring that to your dad and have him, like you say, get it going so they could go the next day.
Right, and they did a lot of they would take car housings and put truck ends on them, and in a crash they was always bent, and they would all that stuff was done. He had pretty quick setup machinery to do it. So
I think you mentioned Ray Lee Goodwin. In '59, Ray came to work for you guys at the shop, from what you were telling me. And your dad more or less kind of got him started in racing and got him going as far as a race car driver. Is that right?
Oh, I would say more in the motor department.
Yeah. Because
they put a GMC in it, and but really the car was Ray Lee's, and he worked pretty hard to get it.
Yeah. But your dad was kind of there to help him out when he needed some help. And of course, we know Ray Lee went on to win the Nationals, and probably one of the finest drivers to come out of Kansas City.
Yeah, and there's a big stack of them.
Yes, there are. Your dad's legacy in the history of racing in Kansas City was he was able to make racing parts that racers could afford. I think that's one of the big things that really stood out as far as your dad. And they were parts that would stand up to the rigors of racing.
Right. It was just stuff that generally that he saw that there was either a problem with, or they just cost too much. And but they did fix a lot of stuff. It's just
yeah.
So I wasn't very old, and a lot of it, and I don't really remember enough that I should.
Yeah. I think you were telling me at 9 years old you splined your first
torsion bar, and it was for Jerry Weld. It was before Taylor was doing much work as far as machine work, and that was the start of the super modified.
Okay.
And but it was the first set that I splined.
I've never done it. I've never been around it. But is that something that's pretty difficult to learn? Or
No, it's really pretty simple. It's so simple it's easy to make a mistake.
Okay. With no formal training in the area of machining race car parts, your dad could take a problem and study it, and with what I like to think of as common sense approach, was able to take that part, reproduce it, and make it where it was even better. I mean, that's got to be
that, and also modify something to work.
right.
They would always find something that they could use to start with, and that's probably what he was the best at.
Oh, really? Okay. Would you say that this was probably the beginning of what eventually became Layne Machine Shop? And about what year did you guys start that?
Layne Machine Works actually started when I bought the building in 1980, and it kind of grew out of that. It just, all the machinery moved to there that was in the basement, and gradually it got more to where everybody ended up quitting their jobs and going to work there.
Yeah.
So, but it was just a gradual approach.
Right. When you and Bobby started your race team, what words did your dad have for you as far as going into that? Because he'd had the experience and the background in it, so I'm sure he had something to tell you.
Basically, he would tell us to work on a race car because it had to finish first before we could win.
Yeah.
And never to spend our money from home.
Yeah.
And make anything do without for a race car.
Yeah.
And over the years, we've parked several of them.
Yeah. Once again, that same philosophy, though, in a way, what you're saying or what he said was, you got to keep the racing separate from the family and let it pay for itself. And
yeah, some way. You can't let it make the family suffer.
Right. Okay.
So you just really got to.
Yeah.
Most of it's got to come from either the car or
all right.
working on other stuff, and we work on a lot of other stuff.
Yeah. Your dad had some of the biggest names in racing in the Kansas City area that came to him for parts and stuff like that, as far as working on different and machining stuff. It had to be something that really made him feel good, I'm sure, to be able to have these guys come to him and then to see them parts perform on the track. So that had to be quite a good feeling for your dad.
I would say so, but he never talked much about it.
Never talked.
That was just part of getting on.
It's just what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, John, I want to thank you for sitting down and talking with us about your dad's career in racing and what it meant to it. And I know, I'm sure all of your family, congratulations on him being inducted, and I'm sure all of your family is really a little bit excited about this.
Yes, and some of them coming a long ways to see it.
Oh, well, they're really?
Yeah,
well, good.
So.
Yeah. I know your dad, he's having a few health issues, but he will be there, and
yes.
If anybody, I'm sure, wants to come up and talk to him, well, they can.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's going to do it, folks, for Elmer Layne's induction into the CARB Hall of Fame for 2011. Once again, thank you, John, for talking to us.
You're welcome.
All right.